Welcome to the latest interview in the Power for All in Conversation With series. We are privileged today to be joined by Mr. Desh Deepak Verma. Mr. Verma is a veteran of the Indian government and is currently chairman of the Uttar Pradesh Electricity Regulatory Commission. Uttar Pradesh, often referred to as UP, is India's most populous state, with 200 million people, 75 million of whom still live without access to power. Under Mr. Verma's leadership, the state became the first to adopt a mini-grid policy and regulation, and he recently made a strong public appeal for more national government support for decentralized renewable energy as a key to achieving 24/7 power for all. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Verma. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. I'll dive straight into the first question. Can UP and India achieve universal energy access without decentralized solutions such as mini-grids and household solar?
Well, my answer to this is a clear-cut no. At least not in the near future, because the quantum of the work is so mammoth. As you said in your introduction, about 75 million people are to be electrified and yet to get the connection, which is only slightly less than half of the population. So in that situation, I don't think the normal grids will actually take a lot of time to actually reach those places, and therefore the help of the mini grids is absolutely essential.
And in response to that situation, you've been a pioneer of experimenting with new business models in UP, and especially the use of privately funded mini-grids and household solar. So what percentage of connections in the state do you think those solutions do have the potential to represent?
Usually the mini grids can come in two ways. One, the places where the normal grids, the traditional grids exist, and also in those areas where the grids they have not reached, the traditional grids have not reached. And since the population that is to be covered is about 75 million, so I presume that there is a huge potential for the private sector to come up, and happily the private sector has started seeing this potential and they have started coming forward.
Fantastic. And what difference are you seeing from those projects that have already come forward, or the use of decentralized renewables, in the lives and livelihoods of the communities in the states that are benefiting from them?
You see, in my state, which is Uttar Pradesh, there are about 60-70 such projects have already come up, and I visited one of those plants. And to tell you the truth, I was very apprehensive that when I reached there, that people would be complaining about the quality of supply, people would be complaining about the high tariff or similar other things. But to my utter surprise, I find the satisfaction level among the consumers to whom the mini grid is supplying the electricity very, very high. And therefore, I think in a way their lives have changed, and the best is that they say that we need electricity, we get electricity when we need it, and we get it in the quantity that is required for us. So that way I feel that it has affected the lives and livelihoods in a great way.
And so, bearing in mind the benefits that the mini-grids are bringing to the lives and livelihoods of the people within UP, but with utilities in most Indian states in financial difficulty and biased in favour of more centralised solutions, what do you think is required to shift their mindset and treat these decentralised solutions equally? And also, do you see that other state regulators are following your lead in this near term in terms of these mini-grid solutions?
Let me answer the second part of the question first. The other state regulators have already started following us, in the sense that we came out with the first mini grid regulation in the country, and that regulation in front of the forum of regulators in which all the state regulators are represented, and many of them have adopted it. In fact, they have mentioned and written to us that there is a huge acceptance of these mini grid concept and the mini grid policy in the several states, and I presume that several states have already adopted it, and they have also come out with the new policies and regulations, and so will the other states which are remaining. Now, coming to the first part of the question, as to how to shift the mindset from the centralized to the decentralized solutions. I think that's a very relevant question. And since the power sector over the number of years has been only relying on the centralized solutions, the decentralized solution is something which they have to actually move towards. And this, I think, is, in my opinion, is inevitable. These firms, as you said, because of their poor health, are not able to reach out to the different corners and to every villager, and they have no option but to rely on the mini grids and micro grids to actually supply power to these areas. To tell you the truth, in Uttar Pradesh, as I said, that I visited one of the districts, and the area which I visited, the mini grid there coexists with the normal grid. That's the grid of the centralized power. Now, centralized power grid people, I thought that they will have many reasons to complain, or they will have many complaints against the mini grid people, micro grid people, but they had none, for the simple reason that they realized that it was not possible for them to actually be able to supply power to them, and since the quality of supply and also the financial parameters also of the power, it was accepted. Also, the issue is the cost of supply of power, because the centralized solution, that's the normal grid, traditional grid, they realize that they will be able to save on the purchase cost of power, which is also very high, and therefore they would probably go in for the mini grids. Maybe that initially there is some resistance because it's something new which is coming up, but eventually, in my opinion, mini grids are going to come and they will prosper and succeed.
Absolutely. And on that cost issue, the main issue for private mini grid developers does seem to be the tariff setting. And do you think that higher rural tariffs might be allowed compared to city residents? And if not, how do you think we might address the barrier to market growth in terms of those tariffs?
Well, that's a very interesting question and a crucial question. How to actually reduce the how to accept the higher rural tariffs. Incidentally, in UP, we have done a new experiment on this. In our new regulation, what we have done is that we are not regulating the tariff. What we have said is that we will regulate the quality of supply and the number of hours of supply. And once these two things are done, the generator of the mini grid has come out with such packages which suits the villagers. So, if you look at the total cost to the villager is much less compared to the cost for the electricity which is provided by the UP Power Corporation, normal power supply. The people are happy because they get power when they need it. So that uncertainty is gone, and for that they are even prepared to pay slightly higher cost. And since they need it for a lesser number of hours, the total cost for them may be less than even the supply which is made by the normal grid. And the test of pudding is in eating, because I have seen this, that in those areas where the grid exists, people have shifted not only in the household sector but also in the commercial sector to the mini grids. And therefore, I think this issue can be addressed in this way, and the problem of the market, as you say, the market barriers, that can be handled if you actually make packages of the power supply in a manner that suits people's needs and also their pockets. So if that kind of package is made, which at the mini grid that I went to see in Uttar Pradesh, which is OMG, they have done it and people were willingly accepting this.
Absolutely. So you're seeing a real potential for a huge impact in terms of energy access from the mini grids at the moment, and opportunities in UP but also in other states.
Yeah, definitely, because I think the future of the power sector is in the mini grids to coexist with the normal grid, and I think both the sectors should complement each other and not be rival to each other.
Well, it's been absolutely fantastic hearing those insights from you today, Mr. Verma. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.